On today's Amateur Market Minute, Meta, also known as Facebook, is facing a massive legal fine of $1.4 trillion, where states are seeking damages for harm that were caused to young users on platforms like Facebook and Instagram. But the question is, will Meta be able to survive this legal battle, and what are they doing to fight back? Also, Amazon has announced a plan to raise over $25 billion to build out its AI infrastructure, which a lot of investors are excited, but some investors are worried when you take a deeper look at the numbers. And speaking about AI, we have China and the United States that are locked in a brutal artificial intelligence war, and now we have two large companies from both these nations, Anthropic and Alibaba, facing off, going at each other, and a lot more that we're going to be covering in today's video. Let us get into our first story. Now, we know that Meta is facing this massive lawsuit from over 40 states, including Washington, D.C., and what they're seeking is a $1.4 trillion penalty, which is a lot of money considering that Meta's market cap is over $1.5 trillion. So what these attorneys generals are asking for is basically Meta's market cap. And Meta has responded, where Meta has denied the allegations, saying the attorneys generals have no evidence it misled consumers about its platform's alleged addictiveness because, quote, social media addiction, unquote, is not an established psychiatric condition, and therefore statements that its platforms were not addictive could not be false. So what Meta is saying here is a whole bunch of legal stuff. What they're saying is that since social media addiction is not a recognizable psychiatric medical term, then when they said that their platforms aren't addictive, then they couldn't have been lying. They weren't saying anything false because you can't be lying about something that doesn't exist. And Meta actually responded in regards to how much these attorneys generals they're asking for. Meta said that the amount, the $1.4 trillion amount, was unsupported by the evidence. A sanction of that size has no analog in the history of consumer protection enforcement, the company said in the filing. And what they're saying here is that this amount is unprecedented, that there has never been a company to pay that much in penalty or legal fines in terms of what these states are alleging. But the states, they actually responded because they're saying how they came up with this number, this $1.4 trillion number. At a court hearing in June, they said they were calculating the penalties by multiplying the number of violations by fine amounts set by the state. The number of violations is based on the estimated number of teens and young users affected by Meta's actions, the state said. And Meta tried to dismiss this lawsuit, but a judge rejected that bid because the judge stated that there were a lot of factual disputes that were left unanswered. So the question now is, will Meta be able to survive this, especially if they are held liable for all these claims that are being made by these states? And the case is about to go to trial in Oakland, California in August, I believe around August 12th. And the possible outcomes are basically Meta settle, or they're held liable, or maybe they outright win the case. But as for now, we're going to be updating as the trial progresses. And let us move on to our next story. Amazon has announced a massive plan to raise over $25 billion by issuing corporate debt, by issuing bonds. And investors are both excited and worried at the same time. But Amazon, they're going all in. This $25 billion is to build out their AI infrastructure. We're talking about data centers. We're talking about AWS. We're talking about all these different platforms. And I have this video explaining a little bit of what's going on. Watch this.
Meanwhile, sources are telling CNBC that Amazon is the latest big tech company to tap the bond markets to raise cash. We're just talking about this with Paul Hickey. Kate Rudy has more in today's Tech Check. Kate?
Hey there, Kelly. So Amazon is raising $25 billion in debt. This is in part to fund the company's AI data center build-out. Sources telling our David Faber that this morning, and that Amazon will not issue any more debt this year. This is according again to those sources. The company did publicly disclose plans for capital raise, but did not put a dollar amount behind that. And Amazon told us earlier the loan will be used for general corporate purposes. So it was expected the borrowing move does follow Google, you have SpaceX, Oracle, Meta, all doing these mega debt deals. And one thing, though, that does separate Amazon from that pack, the e-commerce and tech giant is expected to see negative free cash flow this year. Amazon does have a long history, if you look back, of depleting cash in order to invest in some of these big swings and big projects and then having that pay off. So most recently, it was the logistics build out during the pandemic. This growing reliance on borrowing, though, has added to some volatility around the big tech names lately. The big question around growing CapEx is the return on all of this.
This is one of the clearest signs yet that Amazon and all these big tech companies are going all in on artificial intelligence, because what it shows is that the AI boom isn't over as of yet, but investors are excited, but they're worried at the same time. And the reason why they're worried is because some of the numbers that Amazon is putting up right now. And let us examine exactly what is going on with Amazon and with these numbers, because Amazon planned to raise at least $25 billion through an 8-part bond sale as it looks to continue its massive artificial intelligence build out, sources told CNBC. And the debt sale comes after Amazon raised roughly $54 billion in bonds earlier this year in the United States and Europe, followed by a $10 billion bond raised in Canada in June. Amazon also raised $15 billion from a U.S. bond offering in November. So what this means for Amazon is that this $25 billion bond offering, what it will do is that this deal will push Amazon's total borrowing past the $100 billion mark over the last year, fueling a projected $200 billion capital expenditure budget for 2026. Breaking this down in plain English, what this means is that Amazon is taking on a lot of debt, which is why some investors are worried because of how much debt Amazon is taking on, because eventually they're going to have to pay it off. And a lot of these are long-term debts, so they have to pay interest on these debts. And investors are excited as well because of how much Amazon is investing in AI, because it shows that Amazon isn't sitting idly by while everyone tries to cash in on the gold rush. And here we have this article explaining exactly why Amazon is willing to run a negative free cash flow. And if you don't know what a negative free cash flow is, it's basically when a company spends a lot more than what they're bringing in. It doesn't mean that company is in financial troubles or anything, because Amazon, they make billions of dollars, but at the same time, they're spending billions of dollars on infrastructure and to expand their businesses and stuff. And it says, running negative free cash flow to fund CapEx or capital expenditure here is a deliberate choice. Amazon is voluntarily running the pipe dry to build capacity it has already sold. OpenAI has committed to roughly 2 gigawatts of Trainium capacity beginning in 2027, and Anthropic has locked up to 5 gigawatts. The demand is contracted, the concrete and the silicon are not yet poured. So in other words, what this is saying is that there's already a demand for these AI infrastructure, because Amazon already have contracts with these companies like OpenAI, like Anthropic. So all they need to do is to build out their AI infrastructure. So they're willing to run a negative free cash flow right now. They're willing to take on all this debt because there is already a demand for their services. And Amazon is also making another play in the AI space, because Amazon's custom AI chips may soon be for sale outside AWS, which is Amazon's web services. Bloomberg reported on June 18th, 2026 that Amazon is in early talks to sell its Trainium AI accelerators directly to third-party data centers, a strategic break from a decade of AWS exclusion distribution. So Amazon is really looking to compete in the AI space based on everything that we just covered. And now let us talk about our next story, which takes us to China and exactly what is going on in the larger AI war between the United States and China. China and the United States are locked in a brutal AI war, and two large companies from both these nations, we're talking about Anthropic from the United States and Alibaba from China, have found themselves on this battlefield where Anthropic accused Alibaba of stealing AI, and Alibaba in turn banned its employees from using Anthropic's AI.
Well, it's the latest volley in a battle between the US and China's AI champions. Alibaba has just banned one of the most popular coding tools in the world from its offices. Well, Fast and Four's Peter O'Brien joins me now to explain. Peter, so talk us through what's happened.
Alibaba has told its staff, you're not using Claude Code anymore from the 10th of July. It's one of the most popular AI coding assistants in the world, including in China. And according to Chinese outlets, the ban actually goes even further. Employees are not allowed to use any of Anthropic's technology.
Alibaba from China just told its employees not to use Anthropic's AI, and the question is why? And we might have an explanation for it, because here we have this explaining that Alibaba will ban employees from using Anthropic's artificial intelligence tools for work purposes as of July 10th, citing concerns that the US company has backdoor security risk. And Alibaba's move follows Anthropic's decision in June to send a letter to the US Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs, blaming the Chinese tech titan of brazenly and illicitly attempting to extract its AI capabilities. Anthropic accused Alibaba of carrying out the largest known distillation attack. And if you don't know what a distillation attack is, here we have an explanation explaining exactly what Alibaba did, or what Anthropic is accusing Alibaba of doing.
So just remind us, why are they at each other's throats?
Yeah, so Anthropic accuses Alibaba of basically ripping it off, copying its homework, if you like. A couple of weeks ago, they sent a letter to 2 US senators describing what they called as the biggest distillation attack against Claude they'd ever seen. So what's distillation? Basically, it's when you get a powerful, big model which is very capable, maybe belonging to another AI company entirely, and you bombard it with loads and loads and loads of questions, and you get the answers to those questions, and you feed those answers to the AI model that you're developing. It's a way to cut back on costs, but to still produce a very high-performing model without having to do all of the complex training. It's a way of cutting corners, basically. So Anthropic says Alibaba has been doing this, and that while that's legal and perfectly acceptable within your own company to do this, Anthropic's not happy with a competitor doing it to their stuff, and they said the latest campaign of distillation was over the course of about 6 weeks, involved 25,000 fake accounts, and also involved nearly 29 million individual chats with Claude. So that's the scale of this kind of campaign.
That right there is distillation in a nutshell, where instead of a company developing their own AI model from scratch, what they do, they get an existing model like OpenAI's ChatGPT or something from Anthropic. And what they do, they create a whole bunch of fake accounts, and they bombard that existing AI model with a whole bunch of questions, and use those answers to essentially train their new model. So this is what Anthropic is accusing Alibaba of doing, which is why Alibaba in turn banned their employees from using Anthropic's AI models. So this is massive right here. This is a massive scandal. So basically what's being alleged here is that companies that are operating in China, we're talking about AI companies like Anthropic, we're talking about OpenAI, they're operating in China. And what Chinese companies are doing, they're basically stealing technologies. That's what's being alleged. And I want you to let me know in the comment section, who do you think is winning the AI war? The United States or China, based on the information that I just presented? Also, let me know what you think is going to happen to Mark Zuckerberg or Meta in regards to that $1.4 trillion penalty that they're facing. Also, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.